back to the MOTOVLOG. I'm Jeff.
I'm Alex.
And today is about Legend suspension. So we've done a couple thousand miles at this point, and we feel like we can give an honest, in-depth review of Legend suspension. The best example we can give is Alex runs stock Harley suspension, and I have Legends. Now, this isn't a suspension comparing video, if you will. We're just going to give you what we have found and what we think. So first things first, if you're going to run anything over a 19-inch front wheel, you've got to get a different kit than what I have. For all your Legend stuff, go talk to Legends. They're super awesome, easy to deal with, and they can actually give you the actual information. I'm just some guy on YouTube telling you what I think. So first things first, they have 3 rear suspensions. There's the Revo, Revo A, and Revo Arc. So the Revo has 0 rebound adjustment, which we'll get into in a later part. Revo A has 6 bits of adjustment, and the Revo Arc, I think, has 7 and remote reservoirs. Now, the reason I went with the Revo A is I wanted the adjustability. If you get the regular Revo, it's set on setting 3. Now, running up to New Hampshire and Vermont like we've done, I haven't adjusted it off of 3. But the rebound adjustment, we got the shock dog in the video. That's Jameson, for those of you who don't know. We should have named him Sasquatch or something, man. So, with Revo A suspension, you can adjust it from 1 to 6. One side of it is super firm, one side of it is super soft. I'll let them do it in their video and explain everything for you guys, because I'm not going to get into it. I really haven't played with mine too much. I find setting 3 works pretty well for me. So here's the other thing. With the suspension, I've ridden all season on it. Alex has taken it for a few rides, and we're going to tell you what we found. So when Christmas time happened last year, I was able to afford getting the front and rear. I was through a company called Magic City Customs in Billings, Montana. They had run a special on it. I went through them, ordered it, and couldn't be happier. I had a local shop install the fronts and the rears because it was in for some other stuff, and that's where it gets better. So I got the bike back, and they set it up the best they could. Now, what Legends tells you to do in the video is sit on it, put your weight in the saddlebags like you're gonna go for a ride. If you're gonna ride 2 up, grab your stuff for 2 up, helmet, gear, dress like you're gonna go for a ride. Once you do that, have your passenger get on, you get on, stand the bike up, and they want you to measure. And there's a certain amount of sag you want in the spring. Once you do that, it's set to go for that application. Now, if you're gonna ride solo, you do have to adjust it. Predominantly, I just ride 2 up with gear, so it's pretty much been set once, and I haven't had to mess with it since. We always joke that Alex is a growing boy, so it's not dialed in for him, so let that be known. Now, with the front end, I can tell you it's night and day. So, obviously I have a 2011 Road Glide that I've mentioned before on the channel. The biggest thing I noticed is on the old suspension, when I would grab the front brake, it would nosedive. And everybody with a Road Glide says the same thing. Oh, it nosedives, it nosedives. The Legend suspension does not dive at all, and it's kind of scary at first, to be completely honest with you, because you're going down the road and you know, you're used to your bike kind of diving down a little bit. It doesn't move. It just stays. Now, with the rear suspension in combination with the front, you don't have to do it all at once like I did. If you're gonna do it, get the rears first, make the passenger happy, then do the front. Now, let's ask you, going from your bike to this, what did you notice?
Well, one, like you said, the front brake does not lunge forward, and accelerating, the bike didn't lift up. It stayed steady, flat.
That's very true.
My bike, I have air suspension in the rear, stock Harley air suspension, and like he said, I have stock front suspension. So I get both of those. The bike's going up and down, up and down. Obviously, once I'm cruising, bike stays flat, but it was night and day, I gotta tell you. Like,
yeah,
like it just changed everything.
So we have a highway right next to us, and we swap bikes. We're up at a bike night, coming back, we swap bikes, and I mean, he's got 12-inch bars with a little bigger seat, so it was a little funky for me.
That and the bigger wheel.
And the bigger wheel was a little different. So I said, hey, you want to swap going home? And that way you can see if you want to do the Legends, if it's something you're interested in, blah, blah, blah. Who cares?
Every single video.
Every video. So he ended up taking my bike, I took his. Now, important note, Road Glide Ultras come with a 13-inch rear shock, where regular Road Glides come with a 12-inch. Legends is going to tell you to get the 13, which is what I went with, and we've said it before, I'm not the tallest individual on the face of the planet. I'm about 5'7", with boots on, and the 13-inch shock, I feel like I fit better than I did with the stock suspension. Now the other side of that is when you do the rear and the front, it actually lowers the bike a little bit. Now, like I said before, Legends has a whole video on the Revo A's and the regular Revos and the Revo Arc and the AXEO front end. They do a way better job than I can to explain it. But one thing I will say is riding up on my bike and riding back on his, the night and day with suspension, I'm not gonna lie, I forgot how nice it was to upgrade it. Yeah, so the point of this is, so there's a highway right next to us. We're coming back. All the bridges, there's a little bit of a bump. And at 75, 80 miles an hour, it's...
Feels like a jump more than a bump.
That's true.
Well, for my bike at least.
Yeah.
This it floated over me. Still felt a little bit, but it was like floating on a cloud. My bike usually feels like it wants to take off like a 747.
So we're coming back, and I'm riding in front of him, and I'm not gonna say I wasn't paying attention. I was. But from the cockpit view, if you will, both bikes are very similar. A little different handlebar, but gauges are the same, radio's the same, windshield's the same. It feels like I'm on my bike. So I'm like, da-da-da-da-da. I hit the bridge and I'm like, whoa! And I'm like, oh, I'm on Alex's bike. Whoops.
Probably should have both hands on.
Yep, I definitely should have had both hands on. But it was a good reminder to myself where it was like, oh, hey, I should probably do something about this. Keep both hands on the bars. So I know a lot of people say there's Progressive, there's Legends, there's Olin's, there's 100 different suspension companies. And like I said, this is what works for me. So there is a movement with this whole performance bagger thing, running the rear shocks with the cartridges. I am never going to ride my bike to that potential. I'm not in the bagger racing league. I just wanted something better than stock. So back to the Legends. When you set up the sag correctly, it lowers the bike 3/4 of an inch, and it actually makes it easier for me to move around. Now, the other big thing is going not just down the highway, but going down the road, hitting a bump. There are times when, if you're at night or there's a pothole you can't avoid for some unforeseen reason, that you hit it, and it sucks. Let's just be honest, it sucks. With the Legends, it sucks so much less, it's not even funny. I know for me, especially doing most of my riding 2-up, where I can adjust that suspension, like I said, I haven't really had to play with it too much. I leave it on 3, I set, and I go. I know when we were going to Laconia, we actually checked it because we did add that bag up here. Suspension didn't move, and we were both kind of like, oh, that's strange. But I will say it was really nice that it didn't. And going down the road, me, Amanda, the gear, it literally rode like I had stripped the bike and I didn't have to worry. So another thing I do want to talk about with this suspension is the install. So like I said, I did have a shop do the front end. Personally, it wasn't something I was 100% comfortable with doing, so I had the professionals handle it. While it was in there, it takes about 10 minutes to set up to do the rears. I just had them throw it on, but it's literally 4 bolts and they're on. So the other big thing, that the reason I went with Legends was after watching the video, especially with the front end, they don't run one spring. They run 2 springs, there's fork oil and everything in it, and it really sucks because you can't dive into it and be able to look at it and be like, oh, it's got legends. But I will say, just riding the bike back to back, when we actually got back to the shop, we were joking. I was like, yeah, sorry, but I'm not ever riding your bike again. And it had nothing to do with it. It was an 88.5 speed. It was literally just suspension. So let me ask you this. So you've ridden both bikes obviously back to back. You've taken mine out a couple times around just for a little cruise or whatnot. If I haven't been able to take it out for a couple days.
Hell, I was the first on it before you when you got the suspension done.
Yeah, you moved it out of the shop for some reason because I had to go pay the bill.
I was an asshole and felt like doing it.
This is true. So let me ask you this. Going down the road, one thing I noticed too is I've heard a lot of people say it feels like you're on a set of rails. You don't move, you don't lose your line. How did you feel cornering the bike?
Cornering, obviously, like you said, it sits a little bit lower. So if anything, it took the turn a little tighter. Like I didn't feel like I had to lean as much like if I was on my bike.
Yeah,
it was literally just
weird for me.
Literally, I just cocked my head slightly and shifted my weight. My bike, I gotta.
You're struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
So one thing I will say too, as far as their suspension goes, as the original owner, you have a lifetime warranty on them. If you're the second owner, they don't really honor that. But I will tell you this, every bike if I get another bike, because I don't think I'm ever getting rid of this one, I will rip out the rear suspension and put this same exact setup, and I'm not just saying that. The biggest thing is the ride quality. I think the Legends teamed up with the Mustang seat. I know like when we were going to Vermont, the roads weren't bad, but literally sitting there at 80 miles an hour, the bike didn't move.
Even when we hit that groove pavement,
yeah,
it was all torn up. My bike, it was skating, trying to find the groove. His bike just straight through.
Which is, that was definitely nice. Another thing too, I will say, under hard braking too, it doesn't squat either, which is amazing. It's really the only way I can put it.
Well, you also got the ABS to help that. So
that is true. My bike does have ABS, which does definitely help.
But the shocks had a lot more to play with it.
So definitely. Another thing too I will mention is with the suspension, if you're on the fence about doing it, you don't necessarily have to go to the Revo A's like I did. You can get the regular Revos. They're a great shock. You won't regret it. You know, he and I have talked about it. Kind of, you know, are you going to go Revo A? Are you going to go regular Revo? There is a price point. It's something to consider. It's something to look at. Give them a call. Talk to them. Tell them what kind of ride you do.
Yeah, it's also different styles of ride. If you stunt it, obviously you want a little bit stiffer probably.
Right.
If you're just cruising, you want the adjustability.
Right. And I think one big thing too is I've run Progressive suspension. I've run Racing Brothers suspension on other bikes I've had in the past, and now Legends. The biggest thing I will say that blew my mind was actually it was when we were coming home and Amanda was getting a little squirrely on the back, and we all know when you're coming to a stoplight, don't squirm. She squirmed a little bit and we hit a bump. I wouldn't have lost the bike with stock suspension, but the suspension just soaked it up so perfect. I was like, oh wow, that one bump in and of itself, I think paid for the suspension. That and the day we rode out down to the Cape when they were doing all that road work on 28, it was like moguls. And I'm like, oh man, this is not good. And the bike just sucked it all up. And you were on the outside, I was more of the inside at that point. And we ended up stopping a short time later. And you were like, my back hurts so bad. And I sat there laughing.
Well, I also had a different two-up rider.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
She literally could not sit still, so it just throwing the bike all around.
That does definitely make a difference. So the other thing I do want to mention with Legends is they have black, chrome, and gold, or they don't call it chrome, it's anodized. We went with the chrome anodized finish.
Silver, if you will.
Yeah, it's like a silver. Crappy thing is you can't see it on the bike. But, like I said, it's one of those things that I think that personally the two most important upgrades, or I'll give it three. The three most important upgrades personally I think you can do from as soon as you buy the bike, and not necessarily this order: suspension and seat and handlebars. Now I would say set up the suspension first, get a seat that's comfortable, because those two things will dictate your bar height. And at that, you know, if you run, say, the stock Road Glide Ultra seat, that's about this thick, 12 or 14 inch bars or 12 inch bars might be perfect. You go to a Mustang seat, you don't have as much padding, if you will, but it's just as comfortable, if not more comfortable. 12 inch bars will be fine. So that being said, we want to kind of touch base, let everybody know that, you know, Run Legends has probably been the best thing we've done. Like I said, we've been in talks of how he's gonna go about it, because, you know, like I said, he did ride back from the bike night that we went to, and it
made me hate my suspension.
It really did. The other thing too is, with the stock Harley suspension compared to Legends, I don't have to carry an air pump anymore. I don't have to set anything up. It's just set it, forget it, and go. And I swear that was a commercial for that rotisserie chicken thing. Set it, forget it. Totally was. So that's pretty much wrapping it up. If you got any questions, drop them down below. I'll feel free to answer them the best of my ability. If not, shoot over to Legends Facebook page or their YouTube page or their website, or give them a call. They're always happy to answer questions and walk you through what your best application will be. So do me a favor, hit the like button if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and a little bell notification to tell you when we drop a new video. And yeah, hopefully next time we're shooting a video, you have Legends on your bike. So until next time, keep the rubber down and the shiny up.